Hey guys, how's it going? So I just wanted to fill you in on one of the bigger changes I've got going here in the room. Last weekend or so, I got the StormAudio ISR Fusion 20 installed in here. And this is something that has been a really interesting, really fun experiment for me. I have not used an audio video receiver or an AVR in probably 13 years or so. I went to separates a while back, maybe even close to 15 years. I went to separates and was just such a night and day difference that I vowed to never go back to an AVR because it was just huge difference. But the ISR Fusion is not a typical big box store AVR. This really is, it's almost its own product class. You know, it's got the decoding and conversion and processing power and finesse of a StormAudio processor built in, but then it also has ICE amplification, and it does 20, it's the ISR Fusion 20 because it does 20 channels of processing. 4 of those are on XLR outputs, but then it has 16 channels of internal amplification, which is more than enough for my room. This is currently right now, it's 5 speakers on the bed layer, 4 on the ceiling, and I currently have 2 subs in here, but that's about to become 4 before too long. The main reason I feel like I felt the difference when I switched to separates was the amplification power. You know, so many AVRs, the vast majority of AVRs, I would say that, you know, they're rated at 100 watts per channel, but that's only when you're playing stereo. And the more channels you're running, the lower the power drops to a point where, you know, I was hearing strain in my last AVR at you know, on, you know, louder passages. You could just hear it hitting the ceiling, and it was annoying. So I replaced it with separates and have loved it ever since. But the amps in the ISR Fusion are much different. And I don't know if there's any drop in power when you're running all channels, but it's definitely not as dramatic as what you're getting with the big box store AVRs. It's just not. I mean, my amps that I was using with my separates are 80 watts per channel. And I love that regardless of how many speakers I have, they're 80 watts per channel, and you're going to get 80 watts on every speaker. The Fusion is actually 300 watts per channel times 16. And because I'm not using all 16 channels, I've got my left, center, right, my front soundstage is bridged. They're the next level acoustics Cinema 8s, and they're running at 500 watts per channel. The surrounds are also the Cinema 8s, and they're running at 300 watts per channel. The ceiling speakers are running at 300 watts per channel. And then, of course, my subs have their own amplification. But this thing is a monster when it comes to just output. It doesn't even break a sweat. You know, it does have some cooling fans built in. You hear them when you turn it on. They're dead silent while you're using it, and then they spin up while it's powering down. But it's not even broken a sweat in here yet. So I've been just really, really, really impressed with it. And I'm not even going to pretend like I've got it set up and configured and calibrated to the extent of its abilities. I spent probably an hour running some measurements in here, and then I just kind of, you know, Storm offers some of their own suggested house curves for theater. I loaded those into Dirac when I was configuring it, and I set it up to, I have it set up so I can listen just to the raw system with no room correction on it. I set up a basic Dirac live calibration, which sounds really good. It sounds very, very, very similar to where I had it with my old Anthem processor, the AVM60, so it's not even the current generation. Sounds pretty similar to that, even just basically straight out of the box with the Storm curves built into it. But then I also have done a Dirac art calibration, which is active room treatment, I think. And this is basically using all of the speaker groups in the system to help your room correction and help to fill in, to counter anomalies in the room's frequency response. And when I flipped through, I started listening, I listened to the system raw a little bit, and then I turned on the Dirac Live, thought, oh, this sounds really good. I barely spent any time setting it up. And then I flipped it over to Dirac Art, and it kind of blew my mind almost instantly. And my, Rebecca was down here with me, and I turned it on to Art, and she immediately heard how much better it sounded with that turned on. So that's been really fun. And, like I said, I'm getting some new subs in here from Next Level Acoustics. I'm getting a pair of their 15s, at which point those will become my main subs. The SBS subs will just kind of become kind of correctional in Dirac Art room correction. So they'll be here. They won't be featured, but they will be able to supplement and help fill in and correct that bass frequency response. So once the Next Level Acoustic subs get here, I'm going to have the folks there at StormAudio do a remote calibration on my room. So I'm guessing I will take updated measurements. I will take their guidance in terms of placing the new subs. But then I'll have Matt from Storm calibrate it remotely. He can connect to it from where he's at, and he can play with the house curves, and we can do some additional measurements, and he can just continue to tweak and get it to that point. I've heard some of Matt's work at various CEDIA expos, and the guy can calibrate a room like nobody's business. So I'm excited. Even if nothing else, I get to have Matt Trinkline calibrate my room, which I'm kind of excited about. I have notes here. I apologize. It's really unprofessional. The main thing, like I mentioned, I haven't completely dialed it in. I haven't spent a whole lot of time, but this weekend, my goal is to have a little bit of time. It's record store day tomorrow, so that's going to kind of kill a day. But hopefully on Sunday, before the premiere of The Last of Us Season 2, I'm hoping to get into Dirac a little bit and just tweak the crossover point between my subs and the Cinema 8s. I feel like it's a little bit lower than where I want it, and there seems to be a little bit of a gap there in the high mid bass range. So I just want to get those dialed in a little bit more accurately than the quick auto version did. But it's still been, I guess, if I were to say what the difference when we flip it over to Art is, normally, these speakers image really, really well. Again, it's a 5-2-4 setup. They image really well. So they've always been really good at, sound is coming from a place where there's not a speaker. Art magnifies that, but it also fills in between, and it completes the bubble that you want to be in when you're listening to surround sound. My room is very long, it's very deep and narrow. So I have almost double the distance, or probably a little more than double, between if you measure between my center speaker and my right speaker, and my right speaker and my right surround speaker, it's probably more than twice the distance between the right and the right surround. This room is screaming for wides to fill in that gap, but Art kind of fills it in without even putting a speaker there. So it's been really, really impressive how it's been able to just, instead of just having objects flying around, it's just created that enveloping bubble and brings you in like you're there. You're not observing, you're just there, and it's happening around you. And that's been really impressive. The one thing that really stood out to me almost immediately when we just started watching content after it was configured is how quickly it does lock on to audio tracks. Sometimes the higher up you get in a processor, it takes a really long time for it to lock in. The StormAudio just locks in really pretty quickly. You know, it locks in. It locks on much more quickly than the video. When I flip from a 60 hertz menu to 24p content, the audio locks on very quickly, and we're not missing anything audio wise, even though it's usually just studio trailers. But I did just want to point out that, you know, that first thing, it caught me off guard how quickly the audio locked on. It was faster than the Anthem, faster than most high-end units like this. So that was very impressive. But so just to you know, talk a little bit about what we've been watching with this and the effects that it has. Like the White Lotus, we obviously just watched season 3, and fantastic. If you're not watching it, it can get a little disturbing at points, but fantastic show. But season 3 just ended, and we flipped from the Anthem to the Storm during the course of the season. Our subscription to HBO Max, which is what carries White Lotus, our subscription is free through our cell phone plan. So we don't have the highest tier. We don't get UHD, and we don't get Atmos. We got HD 5.1. You would be hard pressed to convince me in a blind, or I guess, is it a deaf test? I don't know. Like, not knowing that I was not listening to Atmos, it just sounded so good. And not to say that the Anthem, and I use DTS Neural X to upmix the 5.1, not to say that it didn't sound good, but again, just that bubble that it creates is so fantastic and so impressive. And we're using the Oro upmixer, Automatic, for 5.1 content. And again, this is my first real experience using the Automatic upmixer, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to get the Storm in here, so I could hear it, because I've heard such good things about it. And I can, even in just the short time we've had this, I can absolutely confirm that Automatic does a really good job of upmixing. And it's, you know, flipping through the Dolby upmixer and the DTS upmixer and Automatic, I've just kind of, we've just left it on Automatic without any complaints at all. So the White Lotus, you know, upmixed in 5.1, fantastic. Watch it if you haven't already. Also, an HBO Max show that we just rewatched season 1 on Kaleidoscape. So we did, for this one, get the full Atmos and 4K, but we just rewatched season 1 of The Last of Us over the last, you know, several weeks, getting ready for this weekend's premiere for season 2. And good Lord, that show, I loved that show when we watched it, when it was actually coming out week by week. Loved the show. And always, you know, never had any complaints about the mix, but hearing that sound mix for The Last of Us in true Atmos, lossless, you know, lossless TrueHD bed layer, just incredible content for enjoying your home theater system. And then this week, I've spent many a Rex Manning day watching Empire Records, and this week was Rex Manning Day. I've never heard it sound so good. You know, again, there's a 5.1 mix that we used the Oro upmixer via Kaleidoscape, so it was a lossless 5.1 bed and Automatic upmixing, and ooh la la, Rex Manning Day was a party this year with the Storm in here. So that's my initial thoughts. I wanted to report quickly. You know, I've mentioned that I had it in house, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about those initial impressions. The StormAudio, it just sounds fantastic. It does take it up to a new level, and I can't wait to continue to tweak it a little bit myself and to have it tweaked also by Matt from StormAudio. This weekend is going to be a busy weekend. Tomorrow being record store day, I'm going to be out at 3 in the morning in line with some friends to to hopefully get that the Dada puzzle album that's never been on vinyl. But then today I also had the replacement projector. The replacement NZ700 has arrived, so I need to get those swapped out so I can ship this one back. Been really impressed with this projector. It had a stuck red pixel almost right in the center of the screen, so I wanted to get that swapped out, and that replacement is now here. But yeah, that's my first very quick overview of the StormAudio ISR Fusion 20. Very impressive piece of equipment. Just not like any other AVR you've ever seen. So stay tuned, make sure you've liked and subscribed, because I will be doing much more content here on the StormAudio. I will also be doing kind of official review material over at avnirvana.com and on their YouTube channel, but I'm gonna be really kind of doing stream of consciousness, random thoughts, and really filling in the gaps here on my channel about the StormAudio, the JVC backup, and then I have some other cool stuff planned too. I'm gonna take the camera out to Chris Deering's place and get a tour of his theater, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about, you know, that puzzle that is a home theater, and how it's really, there's no one piece in your theater that's gonna make or break it. It's a combination, and you have to make sure you're getting pieces that work well together and all combine to create that final goal of performance that you're trying to achieve. So like and subscribe. We'll talk to you again real soon. Have a great weekend. Don't miss The Last of Us, and I'll see you soon with another update on the StormAudio and someone's garbage can. No, that was a motorcycle.